topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
Good day. Well, I hope you all honestly listened to pause enough to let that intro music wear on you like it has. For whatever reason, I even get into a little jam with that. And it's honestly something I want to change as soon as I have the time to do so. But I welcome you all for honestly joining us here for another pause moment. This is a place, honestly, where we want to come together and grieve our losses together, but also it's a time where we gather and support each other in a way that honestly gives people an opportunity to see the power in vulnerability, but additionally, the transparency that is somewhat inspiring a sense of growth, a growth in the possibilities of healing, additionally adaptation, resiliency, and also finding this sense of purpose in our lives and also the way that we give back to others and how that give back also creates a grapevine. And that's exactly how we want to start off what we call a movement for a movement, a movement for you to honestly just stop for just a moment and take some things into consideration in your lives that sometimes we just don't stop and take that moment to say, you know what, I got to think this through. And so here, that's what we want to do, is take specific issues within our lives and address them and get everybody's different perspectives. And that's why we felt, Arti and I felt it was so necessary to really create one time where once a month, we're bringing a group of voices together and perspectives and additionally life journeys where they can express exactly what these specific topics mean to them. When we're talking about what specifically today, right? Defeating discouragement. How does that affect us in different ways? So before we get even into any of that conversation, I definitely need to start the Cypher. And I would like you to all first understand that these two people that are coming into this pause moment create a Cypher because of how well-rounded their perspectives really are. And so I just thank you all for allowing me to have John Fernandes, additionally my husband, right? And then also, he loves that. And also my sister and additionally a motivational speaker, Deborah Lee, join us at this point in time. So let's start the Cypher. Come on in.
Good morning.
Good morning, morning. Hello there.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good. Like, did I see you last night? No, just kidding. So I.
I was at the football game.
Right. Nice try. But no, I honestly thank you guys all for joining us. And we've got also Arti, our host with the mostest in the house as well. Arti, I know you're moving and shaking as usual. So I greatly appreciate you even getting in this quick. I thought I would have to take it halfway, but you're going to be here to go with me. So good stuff. I need to let you understand, right, that these two people, you have not had the physical in front presence with these two, right? So I, trying to be as organized as possible, right? I said, hey, listen, let's have this meeting before we have the pause, right? The pause before the pause, right? That was a mess, right? To the point where they're even saying, listen, you're unbalanced. You're unbalanced. You need Arti. You need Arti. You need to, that's how bad, right? It was not good, girl. I'm just saying, John might have slept on the couch, you know? Just saying. So we're going to try to get into this moment, right? And I just greatly appreciate you trying to understand. And if you can find somewhere in your heart to lean my way, yes, do so. But honestly, no, taking it just a little bit serious for 5 seconds. Let's just talk about one thing. And I'm going to say serious because it could be, and honestly, it might not be. But one thing I wanted to open up with, right, is for each one of us to share something your mother always said. One thing your mother always said, which is crazy because, oh, you got you. Go ahead. You got yours?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Hit it. What your mom always say?
Boy, if you don't sit down, I'm going to knock you.
For a reason. Did you see that freeze for a reason? I love that. I love that. That is so God in itself. Okay. What about either Arti or Deborah?
Artie's turn.
My turn. I guess Deborah needs some think time. Okay. My mom would always say, enjoy your time. That was definitely her phrase.
Enjoy your time. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Okay, it's my turn. My mom would say, nothing is ever lost in Jesus' name. Whatever that may be, whatever you thought you lost, it's never lost.
Never lost, right?
Yeah.
I love it. So my mother always said, Daria, be patient. And that is crazy, right? For the mere fact that at this point in my life, I now want to create this platform, right, known as Pause, telling everybody else, right, to kind of come into that pause moment and be patient as well with how life is unfolding. And so I just wanted to see, do you guys feel that those words that they said, have they resonated in different ways? Which I know, Deborah, you just said basically, yeah, it felt true. You know what I mean?
From
Like
cars, from car keys to cell phones to jobs and places and mental health and all that good stuff. You think you lose it, but she's been right spot on every time. So it and like as I grew, this wasn't something as an adult. This was something always said. You can't find it, nothing's lost.
Right.
So, yeah, it really, as an adult, it plays every day. So those words.
So I gotta definitely ask John, Ma's words. How have they rung true within your life? Or have they? Or are you still needing to listen?
Still needing to listen.
I'm still needing to listen and sit down and just be still because I'm constantly moving, constantly going, and so in our pre-pause meeting yesterday, Deb said, Daria, how are you going to work this with two people with ADD or ADHD?
Exactly.
And I still, I haven't been clinically diagnosed, but I can self-diagnose. And I think it's not really ADHD. I think it's more of a Renaissance man because I gotta have my hands involved in a whole bunch of different things because
Gotcha.
my brain just can't sit on one thing without connecting it to something else and then having to go and take care of that and do this. And so it was always, boy, if you don't sit down.
So you're never gonna sit down.
Oh no.
That's good.
I think that's why I stay up till 2:30 in the morning every day.
Still needing to listen. There we are. There we are. I love it. I love it. So
I think we're a group of ADHD. Undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, something.
oh, definitely. We're in a room of it. This is like not healthy, right? So at the end of the day, lesion, boom, like, and it's over. We're definitely all we're definitely all having a little bit of I guess just like this internet connection right now, a little drag due to our ability to concentrate. But all in all, I think that some of the things that our parents said, and I think, Arti, you might still need to share, or maybe you're not feeling like share either way. What your mother, how has that resonated within your life in reference to how you've walked to date?
That's a great question. I feel like enjoy your time means like being mindful in the moment, enjoying the present. So I feel like I haven't tried to embrace it in different parts of my life, this mindfulness movement, this pause movement. So, yeah.
It's all kind of coming in to pass anyway, correct? I know. It's
Mhm.
crazy because definitely the be patient, and recognizing, I think, as you grow, mentally in reference to maturity level, I think you understand how important it is that you are patient because of things that you're going through in life. There's seasons that tend to, when you kind of be having this look at life backwards, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I see why that season came to pass. And additionally, how, we kind of need to try to find ways to moving through these seasons. And so that's why one of the topics for, this month specifically for the Pause platform, but also in reference to this Cypher, is this defeating, discouragement. And I think one thing that was clear, it's like, we need a definition. And one thing about it is my husband, he is the definition king, right? To the point where I'm like in arguments, I got to throw a definition out to win
Did
the
you see
battle.
how his ears perked up and his face lit up, like distracted? Like, did you see how that? Yes. He heard the word king, king.
You're right.
King
He was
rings
like,
the
even
bell.
heard definition, and he was like, oh, definition? I even saw that little switchy. Okay. All in all, I was wondering in reference to your definition, or even what you know to be the written definition from whatever link you're on, right? What would be the definition of discouragement, John?
Disappointment. Basic definition, I would say, is disappointment. Whether it's discouragement or disappointment from either not meeting someone's expectations or someone not meeting your expectations, or feeling as if you failed to do something, to meet some requirement or to accomplish something. And those flaws, air quotes, usually lead to discouragement. And so
Gotcha.
that's kind of, but if you wanted the Webster's Merriam or Merriam-Webster's definition, I can get that for you in a second, because I always have my trusty dusty handy dandy.
Right. Well, I think that in reference to one thing that I'm hearing is that there's a level of, I think, this disappointment, there's a level of frequency as well, right? So a frequent disappointments, you know what I mean, or a set disappointment is somehow what I. Oh, you got it?
Oh, I didn't, but yes, I will.
No, just kidding. No, go. No, but Arti,
a loss of confidence or enthusiasm is discouragement. A loss of confidence or enthusiasm.
Hope and spirit.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking up, because see, discouragement it goes from the outside in, right? So for someone to enter into you, right, has to hit that spirit, right? So when the spirit is like discouraged, then that's when it starts going into the manifest of the outside. You know, someone you got to get it from somewhere. You're not born with discouragement. You know, we're not born with that. Do you think?
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. I think that's one of my questions that I was like posting is like, is discouragement a feeling? Because if it's a feeling, then is it temporary or is it a permanency to it? You know?
But it comes, I like what I'm looking, I'm researching as we're speaking. And it all comes from, I think it's a learned thing. I think from what I'm seeing, it's a feeling, it's an expression, it's expressing disapproval of something or someone or an event. And what happens is, after a while, if that constant feeling is being thrown at you, discouragement comes, and hope and spirit, and that's when it kind of manifests into other things,
right?
And that's where it can go into that mental health, the step of what? Depression.
Right. See, so John, you were saying you had your normal nod of the head or some kind of something to let me know where you at.
Well, everyone that's on here knows that in one shape, form, or fashion, that I am the glasses half full guy. I never see the glasses half empty. I grew up understanding, and I grew up learning and understanding there's a silver lining. You just have to dig through all of the gook to find it.
Right.
And so discouragement does come. It comes as a result of external circumstances, but it's for me, it's an internal expression of what you are actually feeling. And so what I've learned over time is that, one, expectation is really big in helping discouragement, and it also helps with encouragement. But the thing about expectations is expectations serve as a way to set people up for failure.
Yeah.
And so And so the reason I say that is most times we have expectations of people, but where we mess up is we never share the expectations, or we rarely share the expectations. So if I have an expectation, say for instance, say I want to do a comedy show, and I say, Deb, won't you come help me set up for this comedy show? All I asked you to do was come to help set up, but I have these grand expectations for you, but I never share them with you.
Right.
I just expect you to show up and do this marvelous thing without sharing my expectations. And when you don't meet my expectations, then I'm upset with you because I didn't share those expectations.
Right.
But the moment I share them, now I'm giving you the opportunity to either say, I can meet that or I can't meet that. So that way, I'm not expecting something unknown of you, which is setting you up for failure. And so when we do that, when we don't share those expectations and then the person fails, then we then treat that person a certain way, then that person becomes discouraged in that relationship.
Right.
And so one of the things that I've learned, back to what it is that I learned, is that one, I share my expectations and I don't set high expectations on anyone. And it's not because I don't value people, it's because I understand life happens.
Right.
And so when life happens, you got to be able to, take it from the boxing, roll with the punches, and keep it moving. And so it's easier said than done. But what we need to, what I've learned to do is I've learned to encourage myself. And so when you start doing those internal inventories, you can then begin to look at what it is that I need to make me feel good about me, so that no matter what situation I find myself in, I will always have a smile because I feel good about me, because I know how to encourage myself. Because for so many years, and this is where the little testimony comes in, for so many years, I was dependent on other people to give me that encouragement because I didn't feel good about who I was based on everything that I saw happening around me. And so when I was looking for all of that encouragement on the outside, I wasn't getting it, or I was getting it for a short while. It's like, if you indulge in any kind of, what is it, any alcohol or any kind of outside vices, if you indulge in any vices, it makes you feel good for a minute, but then it's gone. So then what do you have to do? You have to go back to it again. And so that's what I found myself doing, not with the vices, but trying to find people to give me that temporary satisfaction of encouragement. And I've slowly learned how to just encourage myself, to the point where people walk around me and they say, that dude right there got a big head, not physically, but I'm gassed. I believe that I am who I am, and it's only because I know who I am now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like something the last segment we had is talking about how we depend on so many other things and people and vices or medications and all these things to kind of get that, as we are, that quick start to get us out of something. Whereas if you work and you find a good system within yourself to pull yourself up out of it, being discouraged is like I said, it's a dark hole. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and nobody usually knows it because you don't say it. Like you say, your expectations, no one knows it because you never told them. So you walk around discouraged because you never told anyone. But you got to learn how to work inside and not go down that hole.
Absolutely.
You know, and then reach out. You know what I'm saying? It's like a microwave. You cook yourself inside out, and then you do all the fixings and say, you know, but you can't encourage somebody if you're discouraged. So don't step out and try and do that. So that's, again, back to one of the other segments. Is like, how do we get back to working with ourselves first? And that's awesome. Yeah, that's a whole effect.
And I totally agree with you all on those, because if you look at the root word of courage, like discouragement, John used encouragement. We're just putting prefix on of in and dis. So when you're talking about internal to external, it's 100% right. We have, in order to empower with courage, we have to build up the sense of self, and we do rely on external people and external sources to try to fulfill that discouragement that starts. And so you do have to find that balance of realizing, what am I doing? Right. Which comes down to it just comes down to it all with introspection, like y'all was highlighting.
Yeah, I think so. Introspection and recognizing and being able to work through, I think, that divided mind, you know, because a lot of the time there's this divided mind where there's a positive and the negative, right? And there's a fake it to make it. And then there's getting to that point in life, like John's talking about, where now you know and you're comfortable with self, you know what I mean? As opposed to looking for others. And I think that there is a period in all of our lives where there's, you know, sometimes it could be outward event, trauma, something that creates this disappointment, you know, in your life. And then something else comes, maybe totally something different, but at the same time, it's another disappointment. Because when you're trying to run your road, you know what I mean? And then you're hitting all these bumps in the road at the end of the day. It's really hard to stay on track, you know? And that's why, and the overwhelm, you know what I mean? At the same time, that brings on this disappointment and then a distraction, which, you know, Arti, we talk about in, you know, a lot of psychology about when we're talking about this, whole thing, depression, right? There's this aspect of things that is called detraction, right? So where we're actually kind of pulling away from the things that we used to enjoy to do that we're not doing anymore, you know? And sometimes there's this deciphering between the two, you know, is this detraction, or am I additionally just making change and shift in my thinking and my thoughts? And that means I need to go even deeper into my values of who I am, you know? So I think one question that I had for, I think, each one of us, and I think John's kind of already hit a lot of it, is the whole thought process is, would you put, where does overcoming your fears fall into play when we're talking about defeating discouragement?
Yeah, you got to address those fears, and that, I mean, the courage, again, back to that word courage, the courage to really work through them, like ghosts in the closet. What are they? I'll give you an example. Like, you know, sometimes if you've noticed, some people can have fears as adults that develop, such as fear of bridges or fear of heights, right? These are people who'd love to be skydiving or roller coasters or all of that, but at a different point in their time, they realize they just have these phobias that develop. So the courage to go and examine what is the root cause of that phobia, that fear, back to introspection, I think, is the courage to go there, not just to sit at the level of just saying I have this fear, but really trying to dig into what does this mean
Right.
for me?
Right. 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 And recognizing that it's a moment, right, that you need to take to try to figure that out, what those fears are sometimes, because I think sometimes we don't recognize that we could be looking at somebody else's fears and we take those fears on as our own, you know, and recognizing like what baggage are you carrying yourself, and for what justified reasons are you carrying that baggage, is some of that thought that you kind of have to get into, because there is this like being realistic that has to happen within, you know, and sometimes people don't want to be realistic even with self, never mind here out to the world, you know. And being realistic means finding a way to become authentic in who you are, and that legacy really resonating even further, because that authenticity is going to inspire others to additionally see that, you know, these disappointments or their road that they've traveled, you know what I mean, ups and downs, the downs, hills and valleys, that you can find ways to move through it. And sometimes our paths are not going to change per se, but it's all on and you know, Deborah and I always talk about choices.
Right.
You
right.
know?
They like some people say all the time, like, why doesn't that person just snap out of it? You know, no one knows their trauma. My trauma might be a broken nail. Your trauma might be a broken arm. I don't know. It could be nothing. It could be, everybody's trauma is different, but it's all choices. We have a choice to either deal with it and go through it, or do we want to, I mean, is it a lot easier to laugh while they're wrapping your arm in a cast and say, oh my God, I'm broken, it's this, but they're fixing it, right? It's mending, it's gonna fix. But if you sit and you hold it and is it gonna mend if you don't eat, if you don't nutrition, if you don't put this stuff, it doesn't mend. It's no different than your soul and your spirit, right?
Right. And bring it into that self-care aspect of things.
So you gotta snap, you gotta find something to either, if it's laughter, you know, you ever see someone that cries but they're laughing at the same time? It's the weirdest emotion ever, and you would think it's hurting, but they're happy. I mean, some people want to go jogging, some people like to draw, whatever it is to get you out of that, that's going to bring that encouragement back to your spirit, your soul. Whether it was hopscotch and now you're 74 and you want a hopscotch and that's going to make you feel better, go buy you some chalk. Your hopscotch, keep going. You know what I mean?
I do it all the time.
I'm 50 plus. It takes me a while to get down there, but if it's going to make me feel better, I'm going to get me a hula hoop tomorrow. You know, whatever vice it is that's positive, that's going to leave a positive impact, not on just your life, but everybody around you. Please do it.
Right.
Get that hoop, get that chalk.
So when Arti, you know me, I love words. I consider myself to be a wordsmith. And so when Arti went to the root of discouragement and encourage and pulled out courage, and then you, Daria, you asked about where does fear or how does fear play a role in it. I was waiting for Arti to jump back in with the courage, which she did. So kudos to Arti. But here's what I want to add to, in addition to that, here's what I want to add to it. I don't, because but cancels out and I'm not canceling anything.
Right.
So in addition to what Arti was saying, that courage piece and the fear, most people have a fear of doing a personal self-inventory because of what they will find. And so we have to have that courage to dig deep inside of ourselves and pull out those moments and those times where those phobias and those fears and all of that misinformation that was fed to us through our lives, to pull that out and address it. And once we do that, once we begin to start pulling those things out and putting them on the table and addressing them one at a time. Now, Daria used to say this all the time, and she would point to this book, Men Are Waffles and Women Are Spaghetti. But this is the prime opportunity for everyone to be a waffle. And it's not a negative thing. What it is it's about compartmentalizing those issues, addressing those issues, and leaving those issues in the box once they're addressed and sealing that sucker shut. But if you go into the spaghetti mind frame, that issue is going to connect and touch to everything, and it's always going to surface. So as you pull them out, you address them. Once they are addressed, here she's gonna come. I see it. Once they're addressed, of course, they can be connected to other issues. Yes, I'm not saying that they're not connected to other issues, Miss Daria.
All the way. Connected all the way. All the way. All the way.
But I'm saying, back to the main point, is that we have to get beyond the fear of digging deep inside and uncovering those things. And a lot of times it's because we subconsciously know where the issues come from, but we don't want to address them because it could mean that we lose people that are close to us.
Yeah.
Right.
But here's what you have. Here's where you put it in the balance. Do you want to lose people that are close to you, or do you want to lose yourself?
Right.
That's so profound, and it's so true.
Boom!
You just nailed that. It is so true. Back to the external relationships that we seek out. You know what's funny? My camera's on like really slow mo, so all I saw was Daria's fist going for John's face. Love it.
Oh God. Right.
Wow. With the holidays, right?
Yeah.
Is this time, right? Everybody. So I'm prepared, right?
Right.
Discouragement right now is very, very, very real to a lot of people. That could be discouragement and bringing home a doll baby to your daughter. I mean, as simple as a Christmas candy or cookie. I mean, it's people are out there. So whoever's out there, just find before we all know when we're getting discouraged. We're all adults, even children know when they're getting discouraged. My niece tells me all the time, the little one, right? We know it. So if we feel it coming, we got to find that something, whether you're in a car, a song, or call someone that can give you some kind of laughter or a picture, something. Don't get discouraged throughout these holidays, right? We got to encourage one another. I want to always leave with something saying like, let's encourage one another. You see somebody that's looking discouraged, because discouraged wears on our face, right?
Oh, totally.
See somebody that is that hopeless, that feeling. You could look sometimes and see
this
that
right here. That would be discouragement. Okay.
Right.
So no, I think it's so right in reference to basically this time of the year bringing forth even more, expectations upon all of us, additionally more feelings of, this who I am, right? And then this ideal self that we'd like to be, right? And our abilities to maybe financially do things, or additionally, be able to go out to certain events and be a part of certain things, and recognizing that maybe this is just your preseason, right? Before you get to the point where it's the season where you're ready to play, you know? And the thing is recognizing that that's that up and down within our lives, and how we need to find these tools, you know, individually, not necessarily thinking that your girl's tool is going to be your tool. Like if she's a shopper and your budget does not work for that, it's not the move, right? Additionally, if you're dealing with a disability, not trying to put your expectations always in this place where you're going to disappoint even yourself, right? So this realistic understanding of who and what you can do and who you are, right? But then challenging yourself. There's no reason why you can't challenge yourself, but when you put too many disappointments in play, discouragement will come to pass, right? At some point where you're like, you know what, I'm good. And I do it. There's certain things in my life. I was love to do beading, make necklaces, da da da. Can't, my fingers can't feel well, not working as well. At the end of the day, I give it up. It's crazy how many years later I'm like, oh well, I got to make this little thing with my daughter, and now I'm like, oh, maybe I can do it. So there's these finding these opportunities to try these things in maybe a place of slower frequency of disappointment. You know what I mean? Because when I'm talking about going to the gym, I can't go to the gym like I want to, which is like, let me get, John even just said it to me the other day, but you can't go to the gym and try to like be Shira, you know, like do this whole like running and wearing yourself out, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? Right? I'm still on the, what do you mean? Knowing that it's like, you can't really do that. You know what I mean? But I did start walking. And then I recognized the lady said, oh, Daria, I just want you to walk 2 miles a day, or no, 2 miles twice a week. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do that. And then I started, and I realized I went 2 miles out, and that mean I went 2 miles back. That was 4 miles I didn't even know I was doing. And I was like, okay. Now I wasn't, you know, it was a nice little pace, maybe lagging on the dog pulling me, you know, but at the end of the day, I made it, right? But that was an accomplishment to say, okay, I can still do, because sometimes we give up on things that maybe you can do because of this discouragement. So I think finding those tools and this positive thinking aspect is definitely key. What kind of tools have you guys used in your own lives in reference to whether you've hit disappointments and that initial bounce back, or getting to the point where you've been discouraged and just kind of left things alone, and you said, hey, you know, maybe I'll get back on the wagon?
Me, I have gone from sitting in the chair at a barber shop to make myself feel better because I felt that I looked better. And there's one of the things, the first question, the icebreaker question was, say something your mother used to say all the time. Well, I'm fortunate enough to have quite a few moms. I have one biological mother, and then I have a whole bunch of adopted moms. And one of them says this: sometimes it's better to look good than to feel good. And the philosophy behind that is because a person that looks good, they slowly begin to feel good about themselves. And so, like I said, I went from sitting in the barber chair to being the barber. I'm retired. I don't cut hair anymore except for my own, maybe my dad's, a couple people here and there. But one thing I witnessed is people would walk into the barbershop, young men, older men, and children. They would walk in, and you could see how they were feeling when they walked in. But when they left, and this is I'm not patting myself on the back. But when they left, they were 10 feet taller. Their head was held up higher. Their stature was different. Their shoulders were back. Their chest was out because they looked in the mirror and that picture frame was on point. Now, for me personally, and Daria can attest to this, as we're in the house together. I shave and line myself up almost every day because that's how I start my personal encouragement. Take a shower, get dressed, make sure my clothes are ironed. I iron everything. I don't want to see a wrinkle. I get dressed, I go downstairs, I do my whole primping thing. As she says, oh, you're getting all primped up. And I shave, I line, I cut the loose hairs, and I step back and I say, there you go, homeboy. And that's the start of me encouraging myself. And so that's one of the tools that I use. Plus, I also like to see other people happy. So if I can do something to make someone else smile, it makes me feel good. So those are a couple different things that I do. And I think that's why that's one of the reasons why I fell into trying to become this phenomenal comedy show producer in the city. Hence 1025 Productions.
I can't stand it. I knew he was going to go there.
I knew the shout out was coming. I knew it.
Always.
And do you see the smiles that just happened on this screen? That's what I like doing.
As you are a goofball, correct? Yes. And everybody, and there was no everybody.
That's the other show.
For sure. But I think there is. To be honest with you, when we're talking about living with John, right? I think there is a reality of this. His encouraging himself at the same time being this positive thinker. There's a balance, and I think it's necessary for some people to have that type of spirit in their presence at times for them to be able to laugh or to be able to recognize that, we can keep moving forward. I think there's always these times in your life where you have to recognize that there's different areas of your life, that dog, in different areas of your life that need to be addressed. And I think that kind of leads me to a little bit of what Pause is doing come January and for the rest of next year and hopefully years to come, is really trying to get into these dimensions of you and who each one of us are. And one thing that John's talking about is basically his environmental wellness is helping his emotional wellness, how he's taking care of himself, how he, carries himself, how he speaks, how he walks, but at the same time, there is that authenticity with it as well, So there is, honestly, I think a lot of different areas that if given an opportunity for each one of us to address, I think each one of us would say, okay, there's a cup half empty, but it could be half full as well. And it's really trying to find how the different things, i.e. disappointment in our lives, is really affecting us and how we're going to beat it at its game, and one of them is taking just what we're talking about, this discouragement to encouragement, but courage within to move forward. So I thank you all for joining us this Cypher moment. We will see each other next January at the beginning of the month. Oh God, first of the year with these crazies. Here we go. Love you all, and thank you for
happy holidays, everybody.
Holidays.
Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, everything.
All of that stuff rolled into
Feliz Navidad.
Yes.
Okay, and we're out.